Poland is holding a presidential runoff election this Sunday with a right-wing nationalist and a pro-European liberal running neck and neck in a tight race. The vote comes amid heightened regional tensions driven by the war in Ukraine. For more on this, I'm joined by EURACTIV Poland editor-in-chief Karolina Zbytniewska. Karolina, good to have you with us today. Firstly, how ideological is this election? Because you have, a liberal pro-European candidate, Rafał Trzaskowski, taking on the staunch nationalist conservative Karol Nawrocki.
It's very ideological, and this ideological divide is actually mirroring the deeper polarization into really two poles, into open Poland, liberal Poland, and more closed, more conservative and nationalistic Poland. So there are two Polands, and these two Polands are now going to vote this Sunday. So it's really ideological, and both camps want really to mobilize their voters by being extremely radical within their two ideological stances.
Yes, I'm also interested to know, we'll get to the specifics of Sunday's election shortly, but how large has Donald Trump loomed over this election? Because he has met with Nawrocki earlier this month at the White House.
I wouldn't say that it's really important for Nawrocki voters, but it's a part of his building up his image as a potential president that would have good relationships with our major international ally that we would like to see in the US, especially our right-wing parties would like to see the US as our major partner, not the European Union, but DC, Washington, DC. So it's important as part of his image building, but for peace voters, he would be able to do, in my view, really anything, and he would still receive support of the core electorate.
Yes, and seeing what, Donald Trump's preference for one candidate over the other, is this being deemed as somewhat, interference in Poland's election?
If the interference is on your behalf, usually you try to diminish the importance of the infringement of the sovereignty of voters' choices. When it's towards the other candidate, you try to exaggerate its influence. So obviously, one side of the electoral camp is saying it's an infringement. The other is diminishing its value and actually exaggerating the value of the support of our great US ally.
Yes. Now let's get back to
it's tricky.
Yes, it is very tricky indeed. Now, on to the election itself. I want to go back to the first round where, there was another far-right politician, Suavomir Manson, who came in third with 15% of the vote. Do you believe necessarily that all those votes would go to Nawrocki?
Not all, because it's most of all an anti-establishment kind of party and candidate. So many voters are not ideologically biased for the far-right libertarian stances that Suavomir Manson represents. Many of them just want the end of the bipolar status quo. They are really ashamed with our foundations of our political system. So many of them are going to stay home and not vote at all, but most of them that will go to the polls will probably vote for Nawrocki, but not all of them. And as I'm saying, many of them are inclined to stay home.
Yeah, it's a good point. But has Suavomir Manson, has he at all thrown his weight behind Karol Nawrocki?
He said that for sure there are more, their views are more in line with each other. So actually, he prepared a kind of 8-point list of postulates that are very much nationalistic, quite anti-European Union, and so on. And he made Karol Nawrocki sign it. So he embraced all 8 points that Suavomir Manson proposed, while Rafał Trzaskowski was just supportive of half of them. So in the end, Suavomir Manson said, "You see, Nawrocki is in line with all of my major views, while Trzaskowski with just half. You know what to do with that. So make a good decision on Sunday."
Okay, well, Karolina, that leads me to the big question. Who's the favorite? I mean, or might this go down to the wire? It's just too difficult to predict at the moment.
As you said in the very beginning, it's a neck-and-neck run. And for the time being, the polls show 47% of support for Rafał Trzaskowski and 46% for Karol Nawrocki. So there is just 1 percentage point of the difference within this average poll of polls, because I combined many polls into 47 into 46, so it's really a narrow run. So what we have seen is a history of underestimation of right-wing candidates. Therefore, and it was the case actually also in the first round. So both Karol Nawrocki was underestimated in the polls ahead, and also another fringe right, xenophobic, anti-Semitic candidate, Brown, he was also underestimated. Therefore, we can assess that it's the case also now. So actually, Karol Nawrocki might win, but we will need to wait till Monday.
Yes, and it's no surprises that the Prime Minister Donald Tusk would favor Trzaskowski for the win. But what is at stake for his government's legislative agenda?
What is at stake is that the current government, run by our Prime Minister Donald Tusk, that you mentioned, will have no more excuses for not running all the promises and making them happen from ahead the 2023 elections, so the last parliamentary elections. So now Donald Tusk, if Trzaskowski wins, he will need really to deliver, because he has been blamed with really not delivering. And now he had this comfortable excuse that we have Peace President Duda there blocking everything. Now, no more excuses.
Yes, and might this, what might be the overall impact from the results of this election, especially if Nawrocki wins, on Poland's status with the EU and its membership with NATO?
And I would also add Ukraine to this
Yes.
war on Ukraine, so our neighboring country, to your question. So, a war is ongoing in our neighboring country, Ukraine, and there is a tangible threat from the side of Russia on us, on the eastern flank. So it's doubtful if a man that is linked to organized crime that we didn't mention, formerly a doorman facilitating contacts to sex workers, to the clients of the hotel he worked at, a body of thugs and neo-Nazis, and a former man who might be compromised by, for example, mafias, that he should really become our commander-in-chief and our president. So as you see, it's paradoxical, but it still might happen. So it wouldn't be a great president for our standing in the EU, but still we have the Prime Minister that is in the pro-European Union camp, a former president of the Council of the European Union. So Donald Tusk, kind of one of the liberal strongmen within the European axis of governance. So I think that we'll still retain this stance, but as I'm saying, Nawrocki might be a blocking party within our ruling system.
Okay, we'll see how it all pans out on Sunday. Karolina Zbytniewska, thank you so much for your insights.
Thank you so much, too.